Hello, and thanks for joining us today for what promises to be an informative discussion of how administrative systems and service delivery models across higher education are being transformed by modern, agile, usable, and cost-effective cloud solutions. We're pleased to have with us today 4 distinguished presenters: Mary Ann Mahan, Vice President and Chief Human Resources Officer at Georgetown University; Marjorie Borsico, Project Director for the Georgetown Management System Project at Georgetown University; Aubrey Fulmer, Project Manager of Human Resources and Payroll Systems Implementation at Carnegie Mellon University; and Mike Duffield, General Manager, Public Sector for Workday. Before we begin, a few housekeeping items. You may post a question for our presenters at any time, and we'll try to answer as many as possible during the webinar. Questions we don't get to will be answered later by email. Also, an archived version of today's webinar will be available for later viewing at your convenience. Our first presenter today, Mike Duffield, directs all sales and pre-sales activities at Workday. Prior to joining Workday, Mike worked for more than 12 years at PeopleSoft in a variety of business development and sales management roles, and was instrumental in building highly successful business units for healthcare, higher education, and the public sector. Joining Mike today is Mary Ann Mahan, Vice President and Chief Human Resources Officer at Georgetown University. She's been employed at Georgetown since 1980 and has held the position of Vice President since 2005. During her tenure at Georgetown, she's held a wide range of positions, all of them in human resources. As well, we have with us today Marjorie Borsico, Project Director for the Georgetown Management System Project and Associate Director for Payroll, HR, and Financials at Georgetown University. Marjorie's become a leader in rapid systems deployment and integration, change management, and bridging the gap between technical specialists and business area experts. Also with us today is Aubrey Fulmer, Project Manager of the HR Payroll Systems Implementation Project at Carnegie Mellon University. She's responsible for facilitating the vendor selection phase and will have oversight for the multi-year implementation effort. Prior to joining Carnegie Mellon in 2010, Aubrey worked as the HR IT Manager for Nemours Children's Hospital and Clinics. And now, here's Mike.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate everyone's investment and time today out in the virtual world, and certainly our presenters as we go through the discussion today. The agenda for today's discussion will orient around a little bit about cloud technology and what Workday is specifically doing and why that's relevant for our friends in higher education. We'll talk about our strategic design partners, and you'll be hearing from 2 of them, Georgetown University and Carnegie Mellon University. You'll be hearing about their projects, what their business drivers were, and what they're looking to accomplish by rolling Workday out into their administrative systems. And then we'll talk at large about the Workday community. Everyone in the cloud and using Workday uses the exact same system. And there's some inherent benefits to that, and I want to share some of them with you as you think about potentially joining the Workday community. So with that, let's talk about Workday for higher education. Just to give you a Workday at a glance, Workday is a multi-tenanted software as a service cloud solution. And what that means is we have one line of code for all of our customers. And all that economies of scale we have in running the business is extended on to our customers. We're focused on very complex, large organizations as well as mid-sized and smaller organizations that have similar complexity. We have nearly 300 customers and almost 1,000 employees. We have a long history with higher education. Our founder and CEO, Dave Duffield, was the founder and CEO at Information Associates, and also Integral Systems, and most recently PeopleSoft. So we have a long, long history with higher ed. One of the things that Workday is doing is leveraging new technology. And if you look over the last 25 years, the technology landscape has changed significantly. In looking at just some of the other applications of technology, in this case the cell phone, it has changed significantly from the brick that you held in your car to the mini computer that everyone holds in their hand now. The photography industry has changed from a very chemistry-based orientation, with Kodak being a Fortune 500 company, to digitized, with everyone able to take photographs, either these devices or even on the phones, and Kodak very quickly became irrelevant. The music industry has transformed itself as well, leveraging from the cassette tapes and the Sony Walkmans that I may have grown up with, to the iPads, the shuffles, the iTunes, and the library that's available. The technology that we all use in our day-to-day consumer world is also beginning to make influence and headways into the administrative systems. So if you look over that same time horizon, the administrative systems that began on the mainframe with Information Associates, MSA, Integral, Tesseract, et cetera, have transitioned into mini computing and client server over the last 20 years. And we're starting to see that transition from on-premise computing using relational databases and premise-based technologies into the cloud with other vendors like Google, Salesforce.com, VMware, et cetera, being able to leverage that for today's computing systems. So let's look at some of the benefits of moving to Workday as you see our gentlemen gazing into the cloud landscape. The first main benefit is cost reduction, and it comes in a variety of different flavors. One is infrastructure, so the administration, operation, and maintenance of these multitude of servers and systems get consolidated into the cloud. So you're able to consolidate and retire these disparate systems and really shift the operational liability of managing, provisioning, and securing these elements to Workday. The other cost reductions come in the redeployment of internal resources, whether that be IT-specific resources or the administrative overhead of managing these systems. And it also provides, the cloud does, very predictable and budgetable operational costs. You can see some of the quotes from some of your peers below. But let's highlight a couple of the cost elements in counting the costs. ERP and or hosted ERP really doesn't save you money. You still have to handle all the infrastructure, the installation, the maintenance, the integration, the customizing, the tuning, and the keeping it alive. Really where the cost savings come in shifting to the cloud. The things you're responsible for are putting data in the system and integrating it to your other surrounding systems. As a core system of record, Workday on average integrates to about 80 other systems in and around campus. And so those are the type of things that are managed as part of the cloud. The other things drop off, thus you're able to see the cost savings. The impact on your operations is profound. Workday manages all the care, love, and feeding of these systems, everything with a check mark on the left. Upgrades, patches, availability, the operating system, database, infrastructure, middleware, et cetera, as well as provisioning it, making it available, disaster recovery, and securing it. You get all the latest benefits, and you get to reallocate the effort associated with these systems into other more strategic initiatives around campus. And if you think about this, this is a Gartner slide. Gartner depicts that 75% of the IT budgets on campus is spent maintaining the current state, just the care, love, and feeding, and with only 25% left for strategic initiatives for academic purposes, wireless, student delivery, research, global expansion. That's a real minority. And what cloud is able to do, and in particular Workday, is invert that by allowing that IT redistribution. They can focus on those strategic initiatives. The other, in just summary and just looking at the cost reduction, on average, our customers are seeing about a 40 to 50% operational cost reduction in those administrative systems by shifting them into the cloud. One of the other main benefits is what we call operational excellence, and that breaks down into a number of categories. Unified administrative solution, which I'll highlight, the Workday user experience, the standardized or optimized business practices, and being global at the core. There's a quote from Marianne, which is a sneak preview to what she'll be talking about later in the discussion here, but let's talk about the unified administrative solution first. It's looking at the core administrative functions necessary to run your campus. So it's looking at a same platform for HCM payroll, including talent and faculty management, the financials, including the core accounting, budgeting, and planning, spend management, and initiatives inclusive of grants pre- and post-award and effort reporting, as well as all the integrations necessary to cohabitate these systems of record with the other systems around campus. So the way this kind of looks graphically is to have work being done on campus at the center of the universe. And we surround that work with a good foundation leveraging today's contemporary technologies, and the applications necessary to operationally run the campus, staffing, compensation, benefits. You can go right around the clue here. And then when you transition to financials, I want you to notice that the exact same foundation is in place. And we just leverage that same foundation to deliver other relevant things like accounting and assets, the budgeting and planning, the procuring, as well as the grants and projects. So talking about a truly unified solution, we're able to leverage the same foundation for a common look and feel across the key administrative functions. The other thing that's relevant for a unified administrative solution is to make sure all the constituents across campus are using it. So it is very relevant for the administrative staff. You'll have employee, manager, and executive self-service with built-in business intelligence and what we call actionable reporting, organizational agility and diverse organizational structures with built-in org charts, leveraging over 250 industry standard best practices for workflow and how work is getting done and who needs to participate, as well as having human resources, budgeting, and financial information directly at the fingertips of your decision makers. It's very relevant for your faculty. And for the first time, we feel that marrying the administrative use and the academic use within the same system is possible. So we're delivering the faculty information systems with tenure tracking and appointments, sabbaticals, the academic year processing and all the nuances that go therein, as well as bringing that forth into the grant and academic research processes for faculty profiles and pre- and post-award as effort reporting. And then also tracking all the other type of workers in and around campus. And that could be your contractors, it could be your non-resident aliens, it could be all the relevant constituents that cohabitate and work in and around your distributed campus. So we call that the unified administrative solution. We support that with what we think is the leading user experience that's out there in the higher education administrative world. We really benchmark off the consumer internet. And let me give you kind of some sneak peeks here. The user experience is oriented towards the consumer internet. So large icons, hyperlinks, search, easy to use with minimal training. And we drive these applications out to the browser in all sorts of formats. Any type of browser you have, Chrome, Safari, IE, Mozilla, Firefox, etc., or on the mobile devices that are now pervasive across campus. The tablets, the iPads, the iPhones, the Droids. The application works out on all of these applications today. Workday is also trying to drive the information to the natural workspace of your employees. That could be throughout. It could be through Google's application suite for collaboration. And in this case, we're depicting Workday in the preview pane within Microsoft Outlook. But the idea is to take Workday and to put it into the natural workspace of your employees and to leverage tools that you may already have. In this case, benefits enrollment using chat. It might leverage tools that you have in the cloud. Similarly, the way you would navigate using perhaps Google Maps and or some of the MapQuest or the Garmin navigation, you might want to leverage that across your diverse campuses for, let's see if this build works. There we go. For your office view, all the distributed buildings on campus and where your workers are on those campuses. And so that you can pinpoint, especially for visiting academics, where people are around all the buildings across campus. We leverage built-in business intelligence. So that means all the information for decision support is right within the application. You build reports and take action on this in real time. No latency, no traveling back and forth from a data warehouse. Any report can be made available as a web service, and any of these things can be made available graphically. So you're seeing a few of the organization reports here, but anywhere you see a number, in this case a headcount report in Workday, you can drill down into that number to get more insight. You can then graph the elements as well if that is something that is desirable for you, and these are again available in the desktop browser or through the mobile devices as well. But the built-in business intelligence goes beyond numbers It really is designed to organize and construct itself around your people. So that same business intelligence is able to find workers. Show me all the adjunct faculty that work here in this department or in this campus or under this dean. Organize those people into talent matrices. Who are our key contributors? Who are our faculty that are a retention risk? Who are our key performers that we put on the key projects? Who are our top producers from a PI standpoint in our research community? You're able to organize and manage your key talent using this built-in business intelligence and these latest internet constructs. The other element I mentioned for operational excellence is standardized business processes. We deliver 250-plus optimized business processes, workflow, with best practices. You can use any one of these, or you can configure the processes to make them relevant for your campus. It gives you the opportunity, again, to leverage those best practices. The organizational agility is also a key contributor. You're not confined to a hierarchy or a cost center hierarchy. You're able to leverage those supervisory hierarchies, but also other organizational constructs like committees or project teams, shared service centers, matrix management, dotted line, and then my favorite in the bottom left there, other. And that's very relevant in and around the campuses, and certainly as you expand your operations globally. And that's a nice transition to the last element for operational excellence. Workday's global at the core. And what does that mean? It means that we not only provide you the data structures for over 200 countries, but we provide the localized in-country support for your global operations, like translations. Workday is translated into over 24 languages at this point. Name formatting, so legal name identifiers and tracking the right elements. Address formats, so if there are employees in Canada, it'll represent provinces. If it's in Japan, the prefectures. With all of this information preloaded so that you're able to leverage it immediately. So all of the personnel information, the diversity support, the demographic analysis, and the national ID support is inherent within the application for any one of these 200-plus countries. Summarizing that operational excellence, it's unified in that both the HR, budgeting, payroll, grants, endowment accounting, and spend, and all the talent and faculty information is in one unified system. It's in use by all constituents across campus. It's got a consumer internet user interface that leverages built-in business intelligence with standard best practices for workflow and global at the core. And if you consume that quote at the bottom, that is your peer Mary Opperman at Cornell talking about her initiative to drive information to the desktops of her key contributors across campus, both on the administrative side and the academic side. I'm going to transition the discussion into the Workday community, and we're about 2 minutes from hearing from your peers out in the community. So the Workday community is able to leverage and learn from each other because everyone's using the same system. So they're able to connect through this vehicle, the community, to share information, share best practices, share report templates, share integration templates, data migration scripts, and they're able to participate in new and profound ways that were not available to them before. And the community at large is very diverse. I've broken out some of the Workday customers in other industries, and you can see some of the who's who in the services industry, technology space, the financial services industry, manufacturing, healthcare, retail, hospitality, even sporting industries, as well as your peers within the public sector. So in looking at the higher education peers, we've got Georgetown University and some of the specifics on what they're going to roll out, and you'll hear from Marianne and Marjorie in less than a minute now. We've also have Cornell University, and both Georgetown and Cornell, along with Brown University, University of Southern California, and Carnegie Mellon University, are our strategic design partners. And they're working with us to take what is very relevant in the Workday systems today and orient them into the operational units on their campuses. And the work that they're doing will assist you if you should take that forward step with Workday. Because everybody's on the same release, we're able to share and collaborate in profoundly important ways. And so I'm going to transition right now to both Mary Ann and Marjorie to talk to you about what Georgetown is specifically doing, what their current environment is, and why they selected Workday. And they're going to take it from here. Mary Ann?
Okay, thanks very much, Mike. Hello, everyone out there. We're delighted to be here with you. I would say that Workday really came along for us at the right time and had the right product. We're using PeopleSoft Financials. We have a system called Genesis that we implemented in the late 80s for our HR system, and we were in need of replacing both of them. I would say that Dave Duffield has a very reputable gentleman to us, and so certainly his being behind Workday was a real plus for us as we began to talk with them. I think it was sort of a leap of faith for us to go to cloud computing. We're very, very concerned about our data security, and for me as the Chief Human Resources Officer, big responsibility and liability in terms of the data. So I think for us, in terms of the product, I think it took a lot of thinking, a lot of investigation, a lot of analysis, and we really came to the conclusion, certainly the product was attractive in terms of what was available. I think the cost structure was very attractive to us. Lots and lots of pluses for us. But I think that we had to get to a place where we were comfortable in terms of the cloud computing and someone else having our data. And we actually came to a conclusion that our data was probably more secure here than maybe us managing it ourselves in terms of
more secure at Workday. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it was more with Workday. Marjorie and I are here together, and so that was terrific. The other thing is I think I've been in higher education for many years. I don't really consider us to be the most efficient industry, and so I think we were sold on the idea that we were going to be the first higher education client, that the idea of having standardized business processes and best practices in terms of work environment, workflow, was a big driver for us. And so that was also part of the selling point for our community.
And as Mary Ann stated, we had a point where we needed a lot of our systems needed to be re-implemented. We were at the end of life for our HR benefits and payroll system, end of life and maintenance for our PeopleSoft finance system, which includes grants management. We were missing a lot of our systems. We had a lot of shadow systems for faculty data and needed to fill up that hole as an enterprise system. And so for us, the key was we had a lot of systems that we needed to implement, and that price tag is extremely high when you're talking about trying to implement all of those systems. And the aha moment for us was the cost structure for implementing Workday and making sure that they understood the functionality that they would have to implement in their product, the higher ed functionality that's required. Their commitment to doing that for us was one of the second aha moments for us, was like, okay, if the commitment is there to focus on bringing in the higher education functionality that we need, and therefore the cost structure is there for us to implement all of the new systems that we need. And lastly, the fact that at the end of the day, at the end of all of our phases of implementation, because we're going to be implementing every product with Workday, from financials to benefits to payroll to grants management, at the end of the day, having one integrated system for us was, I think, where Mary Ann was very, very excited, where she could go to one place for all of that information. So we'll hand it back over to Mike.
Very good. Well, we certainly appreciate that snapshot, and we're going to make sure that both Marianne and Marjorie are available for any of the questions that come up from the virtual audience here. I'd like to transition to invite Aubrey Fulmer to talk a little bit about Carnegie Mellon's experience with Workday. Aubrey.
Thanks, Mike. So as he mentioned, I'm managing the HR payroll systems implementation for Carnegie Mellon University. I led the team through the vendor selection phase, and we actually just signed with Workday on September 14th. So we are sort of new. We're getting into the implementation and getting that off the ground. So we're at a little bit of a different stage from Georgetown in the process, but are definitely happy to join the group. Our current system is a homegrown legacy system that is fragile. It was developed by Accretion over 25 years. It's inflexible and depends on technology that is increasingly less sustainable. And as many of you probably are experiencing it with custom systems, it has a code base that is thoroughly understood by a limited number of staff here at CMU. It also lacks the validation logic that will help us keep our data accurate and clean. And but I will say a big caveat here is that it functions in many ways exactly tailored to what CMU needed over the years. We've kind of customized ourselves into a corner, if I could say that. We did have apprehensions about a SaaS solution, and we definitely felt strongly, and our CIO felt this was the direction that the technology is headed, and it makes the most sense for us from a technology perspective. But obviously, there was some apprehension about someone else hosting our most sensitive data and our business critical processes in a multi-tenant environment. So we did go through those struggles of, really evaluating, assessing, and doing the due diligence to find out how secure things were. And we ultimately were able to get comfortable with the strength of Workday's security. I think as Marianne put it, we evaluated it and felt that there was no way that we could be as secure as our data would be in this environment. And we also felt that, it is Workday's top priority to make sure that the data is secure. So we didn't always do the best job in our own backyard. So we were able to get comfortable with the strength of Workday's security and architectural model, and the functionality of the solution just transcended the other products on the market. So we feel that the pace of innovation with Workday is a real advantage over the on-premise solutions. The fact that all of the customers are on the same version and we all stay current on the latest release is just a huge benefit. We currently have Oracle Financials. It is an on-premise solution, and so we're very well aware of what upgrades are like with that solution and what it costs the organization, what the team looks like, how, what it takes from a university to go through that upgrade process. And, really, we weren't out here seeking a SaaS solution, I'll say. We selected Workday because we felt like it was the best product in the market for the space. It's the most appropriate for our organization. And we're very optimistic about the direction of both the organization of Workday and excited to be an early adopter and part of the program. We think that this will help to shape the direction of the product. When we did the reference calls to other Workday customers, one of the things that they shared with us is, how they felt that their footprint was all over the product, some of those early adopters. And that really resonated with us because it wasn't just, a salesperson coming in and saying, oh, we can do this for you, and then they leave and we're left with a product that isn't going to evolve. We really heard firsthand from some of the early customers of Workday that they have had absolute involvement in the shaping and the design of the solution. So, to speak to the vendor selection piece, because that's sort of, what we just went through over the past 9 months, we went through a very rigorous requirements gathering phase. We turned those into 1,400 specific functional and technical requirements in a request for proposal. We looked and evaluated the vendor landscape in the HR payroll space, and we targeted 5 vendors to send our RFP to based on the needs of the organization. We brought Workday on site for a round of multiple day demonstrations. We had HR, payroll, finance, computing services, and campus departments involved in that. And we basically narrowed it down to two vendors as the most viable. And they were drastically different. We did a total cost of ownership independent of any information that the vendors gave us. We conducted reference calls, and we demonstrated both of the solutions to a large number of campus users. We had over 80 or 100 campus participants in a 4-hour session, which I think is a great success given what everybody has on their current daily plate. And out of those, I think we got 60 evaluation forms turned back in, and all but 2 voted for Workday. So it was a resounding support of campus for this product and this solution. We felt that, we understood that, and we really truly believe that in this decentralized environment, we needed a solution that they could embrace and they could support. And with that, we knew that this was also a SaaS solution, and we weren't able to customize it. And so we had to really roll up our sleeves and find out, what did that mean? You know, we weren't sure if that would mean we would have to change all of our business processes, or if there was some true flexibility in there. So we spent probably 2 or 3 months working on an extensive gap analysis with Workday and internally just ourselves, trying to figure out if something didn't work the way that we were used to it working in our legacy system, how would we do it in the future? And we really were able to close most of the gaps. Either Workday committed to providing that solution for us, or it was already in the pipeline. It was, they were already developing it for Georgetown, or they just thought it was a great idea and they wanted to get on board and make it available to other customers. So they committed to helping to develop those things out. And then there were some things that we decided, it's something we could live without, or this is a kind of a silly process to begin with. Let's look at streamlining it. So after that gap analysis effort, we ended up landing on Workday and making the decision to move forward with them and spending the next month working on a contract and ultimately signing with them in September. So that's sort of been where we've been over the last year in selecting Workday. And what I'll say is that we're really excited to participate in helping to shape the direction of the project, as I mentioned. We feel a real strong partnership with Workday. Once we signed, it wasn't like the door closed. We're still in contact and working with them, and I still feel like they're very receptive to input that we have. And we really, truly do. I think Mary Ann mentioned, the relationship with Dave Duffield and their sort of trust with him. And we already feel that even after we've signed. So we really feel like they're making a strong commitment to the higher ed market, and they've sort of kept true on that. And we're seeing it, on a daily basis. And, I think, I'll just sort of summarize and close with the fact that we didn't primarily select Workday because of cost. We didn't primarily select it because it was a SaaS solution. We didn't want to deal with hardware. We really felt like Workday was built with the end user in mind. And unlike traditional on-premise ERP systems that were designed for back office users and trying to just catch up with bolt-on products, we feel that deploying Workday in a decentralized higher ed environment will hopefully help us and won't be as challenging. We've done those traditional ERP implementations. We understand how challenging those are to roll out and for folks to adopt. So we feel like because Workday has been able to develop their solutions on a newer, more relevant technology, it's allowed them to focus on features like an app for the iPad that we feel like will help in the adoption of the system as we start to roll it out. So those are, some of the reasons why we've decided to move forward with Workday and are very excited to be a part of this process. So at this point, I'll turn it over back to Mike.
Thanks, Aubrey, and thank you, Marjorie and Mary Ann, for providing your insight. I'm going to just bring to a close the formal part of the program. We have a number of questions that have come in through the Q&A. I would encourage you if you do have a question, to go ahead and go over to that tab and type it in, and we'll get to as many as we can, time permitting. We do have a lot of time for questions because I knew it would be very relevant to address those. In wrapping up, in just the discussion thread, Workday was purpose-built for the cloud. It's leveraging today's technologies, today's consumer internet constructs, but by no means have we cornered the market on intelligence. We engage our customer community readily. We work hand in glove with our strategic design partners. You heard from two of them. We'd certainly encourage you to reach out to the others. We know higher ed is very, very networked, and we're going to take very good of our friends in higher ed. The key benefits, can be characterized in a lot of ways, but, distilling it down to cost reduction and what I call operational excellence, but it's the ability to drive change into the organization, but still be respectful of the fact that higher ed is a very unique place. In some cases, you have public institutions. In other cases, you have private research. You may have medical centers. You might have distributed decentralized campuses or campus systems, and you might have systems that need to adhere to some of the global the requirements that are out there. So, we think we've got a good platform for you. And again, by doing all the care, love, and feeding of keeping these systems up, it allows you to repurpose some of your critical resources on campus to things that are more strategic to your long-term plans. And then, as you heard, the community at large is very networked. There's a collaboration and a leveraging each other's experiences that is profoundly different in the way that the universities and higher ed institutions have orphaned themselves off with their own code line. By having this one-for-all approach, it really does bring some new benefits to bear. And it's not just for customers. Workday participates in this community, as does the partner ecosystem. So as relevant extensions of the Workday application set are identified, they can be put out into the community and readily leveraged by all of our customers in a very streamlined way. So one other slide, just an element, if you do want to see more, Workday Live is a reoccurring live demonstration that we do, on your computer, on your browser. The next one is next Wednesday, the 9th. That's specific for higher education. There are other demonstrations that are done on a reoccurring basis, and so this is the website that is if you visit the website out in the resources tab, you'll find the other webinars and then the weekly webcast, as well as the solution page out on the workday.com for higher ed. There you'll see information and content very specific to you, as well as the customer testimonials, some white papers, product data sheets, previews, and as well as helping you build a business case to change and to move towards Workday. So with that, I'm going to transition to the Q&A. And on the Q&A, I think we have over 20 questions already, so this is fantastic. And so what we're going to do is just kind of look at them from the first ones that were asked, and we'll go through them. I'll moderate and address some of the questions where I can. And then I'm also going to invite both Marianne, Marjorie, and Aubrey to participate in the questions that you've directed specifically to Georgetown and Carnegie Mellon, respectively. So one of the first questions we got from our friends in Nevada, so it was very good to see you guys last week as well. The question is, how long or what was the effort it took to integrate Workday into the student systems that were in place at both Georgetown and Carnegie? And in a parallel to that, what, and maybe we didn't make that clear, what student systems are you using on campus? And so Marjorie and Marianne, maybe you can expand on, what student system you use at Georgetown and what efforts you're using to integrate it to Workday.
Great, thanks, Mike. So this is Marjorie. We use Banner as our student system. We are integrating Banner with Workday for our student employees, having to do with enrollment status and how that changes your tax withholding status. We're integrating with Banner on federal work-study awards. So we're receiving award information from our student system and then sending earnings information back to our student system. So those are the ways that we're integrating with Banner today. We have some future integrations for faculty scheduled for after our initial go live and our initial go live is January 3rd of 2012. And how long did the integrations take? Well, it's hard to say. Our implementation will be an 18-month implementation from the beginning till we go live January 3rd. So we've worked on the banner integration not the entire time, but it's been a focus for us to develop, integrate, and test. And we've tested it multiple times with each version because we've been upgraded a couple times during the implementation of Workday. Moving to each version as you implement is something to also remember and consider. So that's really, I'm not exactly sure the total amount of time it took, but that's pretty much the answer to the question.
And Aubrey, you guys also have a banner system, is that right?
No, we actually have a custom homegrown system here at Carnegie Mellon, and we're actually in the process of modernizing it. So we've taken a different approach with that, and we're looking to do very similar integrations as Marjorie described at Georgetown.
Okay. I think it dovetails into another of the couple of questions that are coming in. I'll go to well, I'm going to jump around here a little bit. Princeton University asks, are the mobile solutions native apps or web apps? And they're native to the device. So they have the iPhone SDKs and the iPad SDKs, as well as the requisite HTML5 required for some of the other tablets and or mobile phones that are going to be consuming Workday. And with every release, we expand upon the delivery of the portfolio of applications that are going to be delivered through the mobile devices to make it more and more relevant for engaging and getting not only decision support and analytics, but also the approval and participation in various workflow activities, as well as the basic interactions that you would do with these administrative systems. Dartmouth, we have a number of questions from Dartmouth, and there's a couple of them, and so I'm going to try to kind of characterize them and condense them. One of them is, what is the average number of integrations? And what we tend to see commercially and in higher ed is that there's an average of about 40 to 50 integrations on HCM payroll, and about the same amount on the finance side. These can be as straightforward as integrating to a benefit provider, through a HIPAA form. It could be for tax filing, through Kronos for time management. It could be through, as we just, the aforementioned student system integrations, and the true portfolio. As a system of record, you're going to touch a lot of things from, campus safety and badging. It could be a parking system. It could be any number of things. But on average, it's about 40 to 50 for HCM payroll, and about another 40 to 50 on the finance side as well. The question also from Dartmouth was, there is a standard process library that Workday delivers. And how do you contrast, and Aubrey, you touched on this a little bit through your discussion, so we'll lead with you to maybe expand on it, and then, Marjorie and Marianne, please, on top of that as well. How do you balance the standard delivered processes from Workday versus some of the unique things that are always very prevalent on campus?
Absolutely. Well, that was sort of what the gap analysis efforts were. We went through and looked at our non-resident alien issues, looked at our OFAC issues, and really said, okay, well, in our normal situation, we could customize our solution. How would we do this in Workday? And what we found was a lot of the business processes themselves are highly, highly configurable. And then we also felt that although you couldn't customize places to store information necessarily, they had created a solution that really allowed you to go in and track information, report off of information that was sort of unique to your organization. So while we feel that they're making strides to accommodate some of these different, obviously the legal requirements and regulatory issues that are prevalent to us, we also feel like there's a fair amount of flexibility within their solution to configure the system to meet our needs. And I'll turn it over to Marjorie or Marianne to add to that.
Yes, I agree with Aubrey. I think that the business process framework in Workday is extremely configurable. So I think that we were able to meet our needs with using the functionality in their business process framework to have different processes for whether it's faculty versus administrative versus student employees. So, I mean, I think that from our perspective, we actually had to try to constrain our community to try to stay to more standard processes within faculty, administrative, and student rather than go even more divergent within those categories, because we could have gone where you could have a different process by campus, by school, so it does give you that capability. It's just be careful what you wish for, because it does require a lot of testing and maintenance as you move forward. So I think that the business process framework in Workday is superb, and the configuration that it allows you is vast. You just have to be careful when you work with the tool and roll it out to your community that you don't try to go overboard with the complexities and the differences in your business processes, because that does make it more difficult as you move on with the maintenance.
This is Marianne. I would add that when we started, we really struggled to understand, as a non-IT person, the difference between customizing and configuring. So we heard it over and over and over again. This is configurable. It's not customizable. And so, quite frankly, it was actually advantageous in the beginning that people didn't understand the difference, because as Marjorie was saying, it helped us to contain some of the silos that exist on our organization, and it contained our ability to not take advantage of the standardization. So we actually haven't found it confining in terms of process and how we do business. And as Marjorie said, I think we've made the point to our community that it's to our advantage to keep things more standardized as we get different releases and different versions in terms of what we have to test, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to be careful what you look for if you're looking for flexibility, because you may lose some of the best features of what the product has.
The one thing I kind of pushed out to the audience was just the slides and the logo slide, because it's going to answer a couple of different questions. One was the average length of implementation for HCM payroll. Commercially, it trends at about 100 days. For higher ed, I would triple that, only because there is a decentralized and distributed governance model for decision making. And there's a lot of constituents that get involved in a campus-wide deployment. And as we all know, in higher ed, it takes a little bit longer to make certain key decisions. And so I think the average implementation, a pragmatic time, is about a calendar year. And I think what we're seeing from Georgetown, even though they were early, 18 months was about the right length. I think Carnegie is in a very similar time trend. Brown University, very similar as well. So Brown University will be a little bit more, about a year, actually, it'll take a Brown. So right in between that 12 to 18-month time horizon is the right amount of time to forecast. The other thing in bringing up this slide is to call out, Workday is the exact same system in play for all of these customers. If you think about all these logos, and I'll go to the prior industry slide as well, all of these, very diverse companies all use the exact same Workday. So in this case, you're seeing, fitness providers and online retailers and Salesforce.com and Facebook, and VMware, leading technology companies, financial services companies, insurance companies, banks, process manufacturers, the San Francisco Giants, Toys R Us, Chiquita Bananas, and then, all of our friends in higher ed, including, state of Nebraska, they all use the exact same Workday. And so folks are able to configure the processes and controls to be relevant for their industry. And why that is relevant for you in higher ed is you're diverse. Some of you have medical centers. Some of you are public entities. Some of you, are small distributed, campus-wide over systems. And you need that type of configurability to handle the nuances. None of these things are customizations. None of them orphan you from any of the capabilities of Workday. They all persist and continue on with you as you continue your upgrade, with Workday. And so I just wanted to point that out, and I think you heard from your peers, certainly you want make sure you don't configure everything, that you take advantage of some of the best practices that we deliver. A couple other questions that are coming in. I'll answer a couple of them. How long has Workday been in higher ed? Dave Duffield in particular has been in higher ed 40-plus years. Since Workday was founded 7-8 years ago, we've had our eye on higher ed, and we've made a definitive push into higher ed over the last 2 years. And, that is really why we're talking about it today. And we plan to be here for the next 20-plus years. Does Workday have any clients that are large public research institutions and dealt with the state requirements associated with them? That's from our friends in North Carolina. Cornell is both private and public, and to that extent, yes, they are a public institution in the state of New York that has specific state guidelines for its bargaining units and the way benefit calculations are done both for the private side, the endowed side of the college, as well as the public side of the college. We are certainly in conversations with a number of public institutions across the U.S. and abroad as well. There are some questions regarding, just looking at them, I think we addressed the target go-live dates. Georgetown was going to be in about 70 days here as they go 1/3/2012. Aubrey, what are the projected go-live timelines for Carnegie Mellon?
Well, we're gonna kick off the project and spend some time working on business process work and data validation and cleanup given our current state. We're actually looking to go live with Workday, anticipating maybe 2014, but a good chunk of that time, we're spending without even getting into the application yet and doing the configuration. We're doing some policy harmonization, data cleanup beforehand. So that's where we are.
How does Workday synchronize upgrades with diverse customer cycles? It's a good question. Workday will deliver 3 upgrades this calendar year. And with every upgrade, there are a variety of different waves that customers can elect to be first, second, or last. And this gives them some diversity in how they accommodate their calendars, whether it be the end of an academic year, the end of a calendar year, the end of a fiscal year. And we're certainly cognizant of holiday schedules and also the academic schedules that go along with, the dates so that we're minimally impactful, on your day-to-day operations. Does Workday support multi-affiliation? I'm assuming multiple roles per individual. This comes from Princeton. Absolutely. It's one of the key, prerequisite items within higher ed and the public sector is to have multiple jobs. And all the diversity that goes along with the association of positions, the association of benefits, the accrual of eligibility and compensation and merit, and the associated, elements that all drive towards, the uniqueness of having, again, multiple jobs, but, a singular record within Workday. Question going out to both Georgetown and Carnegie. How have you found that was your campus ready for this functionality? Is it easy or difficult to opt out of certain elements of Workday or to opt out for certain portions of your population? Meaning, are you going to drive self-service out there in total? Are you going to, what are the type of things that you're going to roll out? Why don't we highlight that with you, Georgetown, and Marianne or Marjorie?
Yeah, this is Marianne. I'm happy to answer the question. We're really rolling out right now, and I would say that we have a very excited community. We are rolling out employee self-service to all of our employees, and I would just say to the community that's listening, we have over the period of the last 5 years plus really been working to get our total community comfortable with technology. So we've had online training programs. We have an employee self-service. And so to facilitate for some employees, blue-collar employees in particular that aren't using the computer every day, we're setting up kiosks. We already have them around our campus. So we really are rolling out self-service. We actually have what is called our HR contact, which are our departmental administrator people, will be the main point of entry into the system. And so we have over the last few weeks, and we'll be ending next week, we've been training all 300 of them on the system, and they've been in the training, and I've been talking to people. And for people who are computer literate, who are people who are used to sort of our business processes, even our paper processes, I've heard that they're picking it up very quickly, and I'm being told it's really easy. We have some people who aren't as comfortable with computers, with technology, so we're building in a lot of support for those individuals. But I would say it is being very well received by our user community, and I think they're very anxious to get active and working in it.
And also for the people that are, we have employee self-service going out to everyone. Manager self-service, on the other hand, is not, we're not going to be using that initially. A lot of the initial data entry of the transactions is going to start from what we call a department administrator, and that's going to flow through a approval process. That's the business process we were talking about before. And we don't require that the manager really have a lot of approvals or tasks within that business process. It goes from HR administrators to finance administrators, and that kind of closes out the completion step. The managers are notified that something has occurred to one of their employees, but managers are not required to complete any type of transaction in the system initially. So that's how we're rolling it out. And can you opt out of certain things from Workday? For certain functionality that we wouldn't use, that our other commercial clients would use, yes, you don't have to use that if that's what you're referring to, like bonuses or commissions, something like that. We would not use, and you don't have to use, and you can secure that so that nobody even sees that. And there are portions of the application that we absolutely are not using.
Yeah, and that persists itself through the upgrade cycle. So as Workday delivers new features and functions, they're all delivered turned off, and our clients opt in to be able to leverage them. And as you heard from Georgetown, certain diversity in how you roll that out to your community. It's certainly not all or none. We're almost at time, so I'm going to rapid fire answer 3 or 4 of these, and then we're going to aggregate the whole list and answer them offline, and then send the list with all the answered questions out to all the participants. For integration, are there partners with cloud integration companies, IBM, Cast Iron, or others? We deliver an enterprise service bus capability with the application so that you can take our standard APIs, XML, and web services and transition those into any other type of format you need to integrate to your other systems. Or you can use whatever integration technologies that you're most comfortable with, including IBM or some of the other best of breeds that are out there. By no means do we restrict you in that usage category. How do we handle the changing quarterly annual tax, as well as the financial and HR regulatory changes that happen? That's what we do. We've got people that are on point for making sure we're well aware of the regulatory elements. We adhere to them, and we enable both that quarterly and annual tax filing through extensions into ADP, Ceridian, or other tax filing providers. We enable that through a pre-built integration. Is Workday going to plan a student and or course system or some of the alumni tracking? Right now we're focused on the administrative side for the HCM, talent, faculty, budgeting and planning, as well as the grant management and core accounting. And that's going to keep our plate full for the next probably 2 years. We're certainly looking at a student and academic delivery system longer term. And our goal is to, again, provide something very relevant to our initial and soon-to-be growing customer base in higher ed, and then make those priorities within the next 3 to 5 years. But I would anticipate Workday at some point delivering the student administration system as well. Do we integrate to people admin? We have, and we will facilitate the handoff point. People admin does a great job with the faculty recruiting pieces. And there are other, administrative recruiting systems that we integrate to as well, but we'll certainly, support those efforts. And with that, I want to respect the hour because we're right at 12 Pacific. And again, what we'll do is we'll aggregate all these questions up into a way that, again, we can distribute all of the answers to all the participants. So I want to thank you out in virtual land for your investment in the last hour. We certainly appreciate it. We hope it was informative. We hope it was constructive in hearing from your peers in both Georgetown and Carnegie, and I want to thank Mary Ann, Marjorie, and Aubrey for their participation and their investment in time today. And on behalf of the entire Workday community, thank you, and have a fantastic rest of your work day. Take care.